Hello, everyone. Today we're joined by Ismail Vali, the founder of YieldSec and the current president of GCI, Gaming Compliance International. We had Ismail on before, but since his company has been acquired, welcome. Nice to have you here again.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, and Happy New Year to you.
So we're recording this on the 1st of January, 2026. So first of all, Happy New Year to you. There's a lot of news in gambling these days, and there's two things I want to discuss. One of them is your upcoming report on the state of gambling in America, and the other one is the latest case against Drake, the rapper, for all sorts of allegations, including promoting of unlicensed crypto gambling. Tell me a little bit about the report that you guys put together.
So we put a report together for our client, the Campaign for Fairer Gambling, which is founded and funded by a gentleman called Derek Webb. Derek made all of his fortune in the gaming industry, and he campaigns to bring a fair and safe marketplace to jurisdictions all over the world. Most clear focus is in the United Kingdom and in the United States. So we've been working with Derek for just over 3 years now, and we've done the most comprehensive analysis of monitored behavior from the audience and their activity across sports betting, casino, poker, including things like crypto, including things like predictors, all these new innovative products that are coming through, and obviously the split between legal and illegal gambling. So in America, we have an issue between what's regulated, legal and licensed, and what's unregulated, illegal and unlicensed right now. That's running at 74% of the marketplace is going towards unregulated brands, 26% is going towards regulated brands. But in America, we're at this tipping point where YieldSec and its 2024 work have basically called out America as it's a marketplace that needs to basically do things during 2025 to move the marketplace away from this illegal control. That hasn't happened. Our half-year work, which is about to come out on the 7th of January, our half-year work is basically showing the marketplace is staying static, 74% going to unregulated brands, 26% going to regulated brands. But the real headline here that's worrying is we had 103 legal licensed online gaming brands in America who pay tax, who provide jobs, who provide in-state benefits with the supply chain, and who are also paying taxes. We had 103 of those in 2023. In 2024, we had 95. By the 6-month point of 2025, we've gone down to 57. That will end this year. That will end the 2025 year around the 50 mark. None of that, Boaz, is coming from M&A, mergers and acquisitions. None of it's coming from people who are buying each other and consolidating a broad industry. It's coming from attrition because these brands cannot make the money they should be making, which then has a knock-on consequence of not paying any taxes that the states expect them to be paying. So we're in a position now where the ecosystem is really in trouble in America. And what we're looking at is this thing getting worse before it gets any better. And all of that is coming down to the control by unregulated, unlicensed brands over the American online gaming experience.
That number really caught my attention because I just think this is absolutely crazy. I see gambling ads everywhere. You can't put on a football game without seeing gambling ads. Everyone is gambling. How is it possible that gambling operators are still not making any money?
You've had 7 years of legal licensed operations, the ability for states to license their destiny relating to online gaming. That's been going on since 2018. Before that, you basically have since 1995, 3 decades now of unregulated illegal gambling in America. So those 3 decades have built up a huge amount of customer database, customer interaction, and fundamentally this. You have 30 states licensed today for online sports betting. There are 7 for online casino. The business model that I grew up with, so my background prior to setting up YieldSec and becoming president of GCI, my background was 20 years of gaming operations. So I built some of the world's biggest online gaming brands, PokerStars, Paradise Poker, and SportingBet. One lesson that business learned was this. If you want to make money in this business, you need to be the one-stop gambling shop and you need to have cross-sell. So your ability to acquire database, audience from sports betting and move them into casino and poker where the margin is higher. If you don't have cross-sell, it's extremely hard to make money because sports betting is a razor-thin margin. Legal or illegal, it's a razor-thin margin. What the illegals learned was give everybody the one-stop gambling shop, give everybody what they want in one place, and those guys have been there for 3 decades. And they can take the audience from each new Super Bowl, each new March Madness every year, and push them into casino and other products in the off period for American sports. Legal brands are everywhere and advertising everywhere, and they're funded by investors, and they are desperately trying to claw their way into that database. But as a customer, why would I gamble with you when you don't offer me benefit in the casino when I lose money on sports, benefit in the sports book when I lose money in the casino? So cross-sell is king, and most legal brands do not have cross-sell because of the legislative delays that have been present there.
I want to pause here for a second before we dive deep into the market dynamics. There is one number from your report that just blew my mind. $7 billion. Yes. 67. That's how much illegal gambling operators took from Americans last year. That's 74%, according to your report, of every dollar gambled online. Why is this not the biggest crime story in America right now?
So in our view, it has been the biggest crime story in America for the last 5 years. Since we set up YieldSec and that monitoring platform, when we first looked at this, and again, we've proven our platform and model over many years now. So we have an exercise that we do every year on the Super Bowl where, because we've seen so much data, we tell people before it takes place, this is how the audience is tracking, this is what we reckon the legal revenue is, this is what we reckon the illegal revenue is. And everybody loses their mind on social media every year and says, YieldSec must be wrong, GCI must be wrong, and this can't be true. Every year, we've been proven right on the legal number, because that's the one that's obviously declared and audited. When the legal number comes out 3-4 weeks after the end of the Super Bowl in late February, when that number comes out in March, we are always within 0.1% of what the number was in terms of the number of bets placed and the amount of money placed on those bets. So the platform's seen enough that its predictive analytics are really great now as well. So we can tell you, we know that the audience is tracking like this. We've seen the prevalence of advertising. This is how much is going to be left behind. Now, if we're right on the legal number, Boaz, we are right on the illegal number because it's an apples and apples methodology used to get to those answers. Okay, so the crime story in America, this is a shocking case of money that's been stolen from American commerce. All of these brands that should be making money in legal online gaming are not making the money they should. It's theft from American community. All the money that should have been paid in tax hasn't been paid. Okay, because these brands operate and don't pay any taxes and they're all based offshore. And then it's the American consumer that ultimately suffers because even though you might be getting sweet offers from these illegal brands, they are not just treating you like a customer. They are also using your data for other things. You'll find that your use of illegal gambling will lead to other things that you're now being sold, particularly financial loans and payday loans. You'll be being pushed that stuff because people see you as a high-risk individual.
There's even an implication in the streaming market, as the latest Drake case implies. But before we talk about that, one thing I don't understand is, in the last few years, we've had an impressive amount of legalization in the American gambling market. That's why things seem to have picked up so much. And so many states promise that if there's legalized gambling, then the illegals are going to go away, then the legal market's going to take over, the market's going to become clean. And yet, according to your report, the exact opposite has happened. Why is that?
So I think there's an assumption here, which was, if you legalize something that has always been prohibited, if we legalize, surely the marketplace takes care of itself. The problem is crime doesn't just leave. So unregulated brands who've been there for 3 decades now in America are not simply going to roll up their tents and go away. And that same assumption I've seen the world over. So we've advised dozens of regulators. Before I set up YieldSec in my operations career, we'd always get asked for kind of our views on how they regulate and legalize the marketplace. And there was always this assumption, which is not anybody's fault, to be clear. It's not regulators' fault. It's not the legislators' fault. It's a fault of us as societies, I believe. We thought if we legalize an activity, it will basically take care of itself. Everyone will move towards, like osmosis, everybody will move towards, I'll bet with these brands, I'll bet with the ones who are most advertised. That's not the case because of how advertising works nowadays. Even if I'm doing all of the sponsorship deals like having ambassadors like Drake, for example, even if I'm doing all of those deals, does that mean I'm the most frequented online brand? And the answer is no. When I've got 3 decades of experience in digital marketing, when I've got 3 decades of customer database I've built up, that's an extremely sticky thing. that basically keeps customers on that dark side of the internet. But the dark side of the internet has become all of online gaming, is what's happened in
Yeah.
America. So when you're looking at 74% of the marketplace, $67 billion, $7.1 billion during 2024, that number will be higher for 2025, which is published. The 6-month numbers will be coming back to do the full year shortly. The main problem here is this. Customers are seduced, unregulated online gaming in America, and they have been for decades. So the big crime story here, this is worth hundreds of billions of dollars over 3 decades, okay?
Of course.
Tax revenue that should have come from this is worth hundreds of billions of dollars over 3 decades. Nothing has been done about this, and you have to see this as a heist in plain sight, okay?
I think the other thing that has come up and has sprung up, and I think maybe has changed the dynamics, is that crypto gambling has become a $14.4 billion monster. This is, according to you guys, 43% of everything that Americans see when they're searching for gambling related terms. Is crypto gambling just illegal gambling wearing a costume?
So crypto gambling has become this breakout product, and it's using the word crypto to act as catnip for a certain audience who basically don't know any better and haven't educated themselves in the real fundamental here. So there's a bunch of people crowding around this area, some of them not to be trusted, who are telling you that this thing exists and therefore you should gamble with them. But there is a whole bunch of noise in the crypto casino area, the crypto gambling area, which everybody needs to be careful about. The amount of money it's taking away from the legitimate marketplace, from the community in tax payments, is also something to be concerned about now.
I want to quote from your research paper: crypto gambling drives higher frequency at much higher stakes than we have ever witnessed in gambling history. Are we seeing the invention of the digital gambling equivalent of crack cocaine with crypto gambling?
What we're seeing on crypto it's scared us in terms of we've not seen the frequency and recency and stake sizes that we're seeing from crypto gambling. By showing consumers their balance through the matrix of it's all cryptocurrencies now, and they were generally going up. We've seen brands in the crypto gaming space in the last few months when Bitcoin's been crashing. We've seen brands marketing in ways they never have before. Okay. So previously, they would just be able to take your money, show you your account balance expressed in cryptocurrency. And because you felt richer every day, because Bitcoin was going up, you gambled more. And they were constantly pushing you through the notifications to, oh, hey, we've got this really volatile slot machine and this guy just won. All these made up promotions that they were coming up with, all made up kind of AI'd feeds and deep fake feeds of people winning money on slot machines. Whole bunch of bullshit stuff that was ending up on YouTube from that. What we now started seeing the last few months is basically when Bitcoin is going down, the Ponzi scheme part of this, the illusion that's been sold, the lie that's been sold to American consumers and global consumers on crypto gaming, what we're seeing is brands are panicking. So they're doing things like saying, oh, we're giving away $500,000 a month during $500,000 over Christmas week. We're giving away $25,000 a day in daily promotions. Crypto gaming brands never did that stuff. They never gave money away, ever, okay? Now they've all started doing it because this is the first sustained period of Bitcoin doing this. Okay, so they've all been giving money away like there's no tomorrow, particularly in the period where usually they'd be taking on customers hand over fist, which starts on Halloween, goes through Black Friday, goes through Christmas and New Year, and ends around Easter. So the casino growth period globally is usually Halloween to Easter. That's when it grows. Okay, then it dies off a bit. This year is interesting, 2026, because we have a year of gambling without gaps. So what we have this year for most of the world's audiences, slightly less so in America, the World Cup taking place when it does, where it does, means that people will be gambling all year round. Now, for any gaming brand, you want to take on a whole bunch of people from that Black Friday, Halloween, Black Friday through Easter period, and then you want to keep them activated through the soccer calendar. And now you've got a soccer calendar that means there's no gaps anymore. So you could make money from these people every week of a 52-week year. That's at risk with some of these crypto brands right now because customers are kind of going, hold on a minute, I don't like what I'm seeing here. You're giving me free money, but you're not showing me a balance that's increasing every day, which is what you got me used to. So there's a piece of it, which is Bitcoin price crashing means that and it's not been crashing in a kind of like one day thing. It's been a sustained drop over the last couple of months. That's changing the year for crypto gambling. But Fundamentally, these guys in crypto gaming have learnt a playbook, which is you mislead the customer into believing that they are rich. Therefore, you get them to spend more, and you keep reminding them that, look, Bitcoin's changed by this much today in this hour, so you can gamble more. If you then strap to that products like predictors, which lots of the illegal guys have been doing, so they've taken the stuff that Kalshi and Polymarket are doing legally in America right now, and they've strapped it to their illegal operations overseas. Crypto gambling with predictors in it is a really dangerous product because it's so wrapped up in your social media feed and your news feed. And when you're saying things like bet on the weather tomorrow, that kind of stuff is dangerous as a product. Okay. If you're then establishing next to it the kind of like Bitcoin's going up, so why don't you gamble more? Now it's really dangerous. So there's part of it which is there is a toxic mix taking place with all gaming products going through that crypto kind of rubric, that crypto prism. When they end up on the other side, it's not a kind of it's like taking the color spectrum from that Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. Take that color spectrum in reverse. It's going into a darker place when it comes out the other side of crypto gambling. So I think that there's probably a part of this. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's crack cocaine or gambling, but there's something in this we've not seen before as an industry, which we're very worried about right now.
I want to focus in on one of the things that you said, which is that a lot of this goes through big tech platforms, right? You mentioned Google, it goes through Google, it goes through Facebook, it goes through social media, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Are these big tech platforms not in some extent responsible for all the people that they're funneling into these illegal casinos?
If you look at it in terms of criminal liability, they need to be on message. They need to be knowingly taking that revenue, okay? Because the most important part here is the intention behind it. So did they intend to commit criminal offenses? I don't believe you can look at any of those tech platforms and say that they knowingly intended to commit offenses. They are being exploited and stolen from in the exact same way that legal gambling is, that state governments and the federal government are, and the consumer is being stolen from in America today. So all of these platforms who are out there, I'll give you one example of this. We found nearly 3,500 illegal gambling apps across the app stores for the mobile phone platforms, Android and Apple, okay? When we brought that to the attention of those mobile platforms, they both had the same answer, which was, so you're telling us they screwed us? Because the first transaction for a legal gambling brand, 30% of that will go to Apple or Android, okay? So
Yeah.
you put a deposit in of $100, $30 goes to those platforms. That's their first honor payment for being on the platform, having the apps downloaded from the app stores. When illegal gambling turns up, they don't say that they're gambling because obviously to get in the gambling section of the app stores, you would need to provide a license from a state government. You would need to provide a national license outside of America to show that you're a licensed gambling company. Illegal gambling gets in there how? By describing itself as sports information, by describing itself as games. So they get in there that way. You download an app. Maybe it's not even real money when you open it, but within 24 hours, it will have switched to a real money app that has gambling in it, okay? So when we showed them that this is what's going on out there, they weren't aware of it because they're going through their standard process, running the app store, taking on new apps, checking those apps, putting them up there in certain sections where they are being paid to be placed. Nobody realized that there was this kind of illegal gambling thing going, yeah, we can just stuff stuff in there. And there's a whole supply chain behind illegal gambling, which basically exists to ensure we can sell you cloaked advertising on Meta. We see that one all the time. One of our teams is an undercover team. They engage with the supply chain to find out who's selling what and where. Basically.
Absolutely professional criminals, basically.
Professional criminals who have had an opportunity in just one niche area.
If we about, monitoring and policing tech platforms and about your work around tech platforms, I think another set of individuals that are very much involved in this are influencers. And I want to talk a little bit about a case that was published yesterday on December 31st. So a federal racketeering class action lawsuit filed yesterday accuses Stake.us, Drake, Adding Ross, and George Nguyen of running an illegal online casino scheme disguised as a social casino. The plaintiffs allege deceptive marketing via celebrity promotions, which misled users into financial losses through unregulated wagers using virtual currencies redeemable with real value, violating federal and state laws. Moreover, the complaint details Stake's tipping feature, which enabled hidden crypto transfers, for example, a $100,000 transfer from Drake to Ross, to fund bot farms inflating Drake's Spotify streams by millions, manipulating algorithms, diverting royalties, and harming independent artists. This forms a racketeering enterprise involving wire fraud, money laundering like activities, and streaming fraud, causing $2 billion annual industry losses per FTC data. Are influencers basically the face of illegal gambling in the US?
Let's just talk about this at the high level. The most important point here is this: the money, the money, the money. That's what all of this comes down to, okay? So all of these things like tipping features on these platforms, and Stake is not the only one that has these things. Tipping features are allowing the movement of money openly on a platform, regardless of any other controls. So you're seeing there the corruption of a marketing process is what's going on in plain view there. Let's get back to influencers. I don't believe influencers are to blame. As are one of the symptoms, one of the causes of this issue. The cause is illegal gambling, okay? The cause is consumers wanting access to the one-stop gambling shop and not being provided it under national laws and state laws. So what are they doing? They're finding it out there anyway, and they have been for 3 decades. So the big scandal here is the robbery, the great illegal gambling robbery from the American public, from American commerce over 3 decades. Hundreds of billions of dollars that have left the country, okay? Hundreds of billions of dollars, much of which has gone towards funding organized crime around the world, okay? And particularly in the consequences that it's brought to America. If we look at what influencers are responsible for, if I'm promoting skincare, diets, exercise regimes, and all of a sudden somebody comes to me and says, well, you have 50,000 followers and we can pay you this much, the money, again, we'll pay you this much to promote unregulated gambling.
And wait, on that note, according to the lawsuit, Stake paid Drake hundreds of millions of dollars to gamble on stream and to post about crypto gambling to Americans. Are celebrities really making that much money promoting crypto gambling?
Now, that's an interesting point to raise in this case because Stake have been variously described in their relationships with Drake over the years. Stake is a company going back 7+ years. Their relationship with Drake extends for most of that time. They have been on record as saying that he is a 10% equity holder of the company. Okay, so he owns 10% of the business. So whether they've given him hundreds of millions of dollars or not, he's certainly been wagering very publicly on his Stake account. He's been putting bets on Super Bowl, bets on March Madness, etc., and posting those on his social media feed. So you could look at Drake as a super uber influencer in many ways. Whether he owns 10% of the equity of the company, which is not publicly traded, is neither here nor there. So I think there have been a number of explanations for what Drake, the rapper's involvement is, outside of his name rhyming with the brand name Stake. I think that was the genesis of that deal, basically. Drake and Stake, just put those two things together and see what we can come up with. Let's look at influencers at the high level. If any type of influencer I am, I'm a musician, I'm a celebrity, I'm a great-looking guy or girl, and I've got lots of followers. The lure of gambling generally will be, legal or illegal, we want those people to promote gaming content for us. Because an industry that features products with risks always needs a more palatable face to introduce that product. Drake's a great face to introduce that product. So when I'm bringing it in, part of this is just influencers who are being paid to place audience in front of that thing. The other part of this is obviously, do the audience understand these people are paid? I think audiences get it now. There's an influencer, they're getting some kind of benefit for it, but it was a lot less obvious in gaming than it was in other areas. So when you're looking at somebody's skincare routines and they're telling you, if you buy this cream, I may get a share of that money, that's obvious. With gambling, it was less obvious because it's based on your losses as a consumer that are going to that influencer. Let's look at influencers around the world. Outside of the example with big famous celebrities, look at what happened in Brazil recently. Brazil had a whole bunch of stuff where they were basically criminalizing influencers for illegal gambling. And they were going and arresting them, men and women kind of thing. Although it did seem to be a bit like a kind of undeclared war on women, and that it was a real witch hunt for attractive looking women who were promoting gambling and therefore kind of being hounded for it. Some of those influencers, particularly the females, got taken away from Brazil to places like Miami and Colombia and Mexico to carry on their influencer career from luxury penthouse apartments. The Brazilian kind of attitude towards criminalizing this stuff completely backfired. And now you had these celebrities who are now in these gilded cages in Miami, for example, posting videos and saying which companies to gamble with, all of which were unlicensed illegal brands in Brazil. The exact same thing will start happening in America if you have a clampdown on influencers. The big thing to go for here is ecosystem control, bring it away from the chaos, bring it towards control. There are a whole bunch of areas, what we call ecosystem essentials, that you need to be looking at here. One is obviously the websites, another one is the apps, another one is social media and affiliates. That's where your crossover happens with influencers. Influencers are affiliates, now globally the biggest type of affiliate. Affiliate being somebody that receives a fee or a revenue share for promoting certain content, which when that content is clicked on, when that content converts a customer, I get some revenue share back for it. So that's what an influencer is. They're just another type of affiliate. The same as going to any website that's referring gaming content, top 10 reviews, all this kind of stuff. So influencers have become the biggest group and the most prevalent group in terms of who makes the money now in the online gaming business for referrals.
Okay, so let me see if I get this straight. I'm an influencer. If you know, an influencer like Drake will get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to post that they lost $1 million gambling on a platform like stake.com, and then thousands of followers who make maybe $50,000, maybe $40,000 a year, they'll then go and make large bets that they can't afford on these illegal gambling platforms.
So let's break it down. Celebrity One, my name is Celebrity One. I'm followed by millions of people around the world. I'm approached by a gaming company, legal or illegal, and they say, if you post and talk about our products and you feature links to our products, for every click through, we will pay you X dollars. For every conversion, we will pay you Y dollars. The deal that they would have, gaming not being a particularly innovative business, it is probably an affiliate revenue share deal, a net revenue deal as they know. Okay, so for every customer who's referred, every customer who does click-throughs, Drake and his management possibly receive a certain amount of money from that. Those deals globally tend to run at 15 to 25% net revenue share. So for $100 I lose as a customer, having come through the promotion that Drake was behind for the brand stake, I'm giving up 15 to 25 bucks of every $100 I lose to that revenue share deal.
Yeah, I think these are crazy deals, and I think one of the case studies that stuck out from your report was the case study of Ohio. So Ohio legalizes online gambling and immediately becomes a state where illegal gambling operators steal the most money per capita. What message does that send to states considering legalization?
States considering legalization, the main thing is this: you need to kick the crime out and legalize the marketplace. But if you don't deal with the crime first, and again, this isn't telling everyone, there was no rule book to this, okay? YieldSec and GCI discovered a lot of this because we're monitoring all the time. There is no federal or state platform doing that monitoring. We're a private business. We obviously sell that work to legal stakeholders, the awareness, the ability, and the actions that you need. So it's clear from states that have many states in America have an interest in online gaming. Some states have a love affair with online gaming, okay? And they basically have been voting with their feet for illegal gambling for years. It's great that the states, the legislators, and the regulators have now got to those products. But on the basis of, well, we've only got sports betting right now, and regulators are dealing with what they can deal with. So they basically have limited budgets. They have a limited set of products that they're able to regulate. So it's not the regulators' fault. This stuff is still going on out there, not at all. Okay, the regulators are dealing with the reality of the marketplace. Legislators often come to this, and for their political reasons, they take a view of, we're okay with sports betting for now. We'll see what it's like in a few years' time once the marketplace matures enough for sports betting. But the problem is, the reality for the consumer is this: all of the products are available all of the time from illegal gambling. So I've always been going there already. If you now want to graft on top of that a legal industry that has sponsorships with sports teams, that has television presence on advertising, it doesn't matter. And how is that stuff shifting illegal gambling control away? Because all of the conversions, all of the money happens where? It happens where the rubber meets the road, online. So all of the things where you sponsor NFL teams, all of the things where there are sports betting kiosks in stadiums, none of that matters. The vast majority of the revenue is online revenue, not retail brick and mortar revenue. And the vast majority of consumer interaction and engagement is happening online. That's where audiences are kind of seduced by this and interact and engage with it. When you consider then that illegal, unregulated gambling has stolen the march on that by 3 decades plus, okay? They've always been there. They've always been the one-stop shop. They've always been the choice and the home of consumers. But one feature we always bring up every year, There's always a brand, every Super Bowl, there'll be a brand saying, we're giving away a $30 free bet to anyone this year. Old customer, new customer. We're giving you a free $30 bet on the Super Bowl. Why always that number, 30? Why not 50? Why not 100? 30 because it's somebody's 30th anniversary of being in America. That's why it's the $30 bet. So we always see one of these each year in the past few years because somebody just hit their 3-decade point. And that's the real scandal here, is this has been going on in plain sight for 3 decades. And yes, this is one of America's biggest crime stories.
So I did a little research after reading your research, and I saw that ESPN bet, the score bet, unprofitable, losing $60 million per quarter in 2025. Fanatics projecting a $300 million loss in 2025, unprofitable. Barely profitable. Caesars Digital, DraftKings, also barely profitable. Why is this not huge news amongst gambling operators? Why are they not, pounding the table, trying to get regulators to fix this situation for them if they're really struggling so much?
It's a really interesting point. So look, what you're seeing in America right now, you mentioned ESPN, but that's another brand that's folded now. So Penn National Gaming licensed that from Disney, owners of ESPN. They basically folded that up in the last few weeks. So basically you're looking at the silent death of single product operators across America now. So for all these people who only have pretty much a sports book that they can operate legally because of the lack of opening the lanes on all products, because you're only able to offer one product, that product runs at a single-digit profit margin if you're lucky. So what America is facing right now is you're going from 95 operators to 57 because that offering is not interesting to consumers. Okay, it also doesn't have cross-sell, which means that when I lose money on sportsbook, I can make money back on a casino and vice versa, kind of thing. And the customers also appreciate that, but that's what they're getting from illegal gambling today. So why would I move all of my revenue that I provide to gambling companies? Why would I move all of it to a sportsbook-only operator? And the answer is they're not moving it all. They are taking advantage of offers on the Super Bowl and March Madness and anything else they can get special offers for. But what illegal gambling is being used as in America is effectively like supermarket coupons. I'll buy my milk there because it's cheap. I ain't buying everything else there. I'm going somewhere else. And that's what American consumers have been doing in this period of a patchwork quilt of availability by states, a patchwork quilt of availability by products for the legals. That's what's been happening. So you are seeing the tumbleweeds blowing through the streets of our kind of Wild West town here, where illegals clearly have the control of the marketplace, 74% of it, and that carries from 2024 into 2025 first half. The vast majority of the revenue, but what they really have control of, the cross-sell across all products appeal that customers are looking for. They own that. So cross-sell is owned by illegal gambling in America right now. We need to change that fundamentally at state levels. For legal gambling companies who are either not making money or who are going bust and giving their licenses back, the real message is this, basically. Everyone is a legal stakeholder as we see them. So as long as you are not a crook, you are basically on the legal side for us as a legal stakeholder. State governments, law enforcement, regulators, operators, affiliates, all of these people have a part to play in this, okay? Tech platforms as well, payment providers, banks. Everybody has a part to play in this. The most important piece to remember is this. If I can't make the money from the products I have today, there needs to be an absolute fire alarm ringing for we need to be licensing all the products because they are being used by consumers now already. Okay. So all of this stuff saying that we don't have gambling in California, for example, yes, you do. Okay. It's just not taxed and regulated and controlled. And that's being participated with by under 21-year-olds, over 21-year-olds. We don't have any idea about the self-exclusion parts or vulnerable communities. We've got no idea about it on the legal side because nothing's been done. So when you start saying that there is no gambling in California, yes, there is. It's in our top 10 list in this report. So you can clearly see here that 100% of that money from gambling online is going to unregulated, unlicensed brands. You can clearly see what the tax impact could be if you bring it in, but you also need to be realistic about this. Do not think that the day that you flick the switch on legalization, everybody automatically runs to Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel. They clearly don't. So these brands are not making the money they should. And we're now going into year 8 of this legalization experiment in America. We don't have any federal mandate for this. It's on a state-by-state patchwork quilt basis. And maybe it's time for us to start saying, perhaps that state-by-state patchwork quilt model has not been working as well as it should. Perhaps there needs to be some federal intervention and help to help states achieve control of the marketplaces. And this is not all the problem of regulators. Regulators, by definition, are there to regulate the legal, licensed brands. Yes, they have to have a view of the marketplace and where crime is taking place, where unregulated gambling is taking place, and how that can be seducing and bewitching the audience. But fundamentally, their mandate by law is you police these guys, legal licensed brands, make them compliant, make them observe age limits, make them observe responsible gaming conditions. Their problem is not necessarily illegal gambling, because that's a criminal problem. And that means that law enforcement needs to get involved. But quite often, the stitches between what the regulator sees in the marketplace and what they can inform on to the law enforcement professionals, there's a gap there. Okay, and that's because who's helping them monitor, police, enforce, and optimize? Quite often that will be us as a platform helping clients of ours. But again, we are a for-profit business. We need to be funded to do all the work that we do across what is complex technology, expert human teams, and finding those connections in the marketplace through the supply chain that make change happen. But there are many, many facets of this you need to be looking at across the ecosystem. And our state governments is the federal government even funded to the extent that we are able to look for what's out there and what's happening to our marketplace. When you put this in context of this is an extremely expensive set of problems to solve. Illegal gambling is never just one problem, it's many. But when you look at the amount of money that's been taken from America, the amount of money that's been taken from the States, the amount of money that's been taken from American consumers by unregulated illegal gambling, it starts to put it in sharp relief. This thing pays for itself in terms of monitoring and policing, but you just need to get control of it.
One of the things that blows my mind is you've been monitoring this gambling theft for years now, and yet politicians don't really seem to be doing anything. Are they lazy? Are they incompetent? Or are they somehow conflicted? What's going on?
I don't believe you can point the finger at legal stakeholders and say it's your fault, it's your problem, you should have done something else. What I think you have to look at here is it's extremely difficult to know what to do in the face of criminal actions by criminal actors. We don't really understand how they operate. We don't really understand something as simple as mirrors and redirects. So government goes out, state government or national government goes out and says, our biggest problem is illegalgambling.com. So we're going to ban and block illegalgambling.com. But nobody ever told them about 300 or 400 mirrors and redirects behind that will just push the audience to other places. And the same damn website is still there. So you can block one website and you can check it on your phone, you can check it from Parliament, you can check it from the state Congress, and you could basically go, well, that problem is solved because we blocked that website. They have no more business coming from our state, our country. Yeah, but they do, because nobody types in web addresses anymore. So all I've had to do as an illegal gambling brand is basically go to all of my merchant advertising accounts and go, all those ads on Facebook, all those ads on Instagram, I'm now changing them to go to this address instead of that address. And that's how simple it is. Poland, for example, have been having a cat and mouse game with a really complicated, overly complicated, in my view, legal process, where for every illegal gambling brand found or complained about, they basically go out there and say, right, we're going to have a judge investigate that illegal gambling destination. So let's call it illegalgambling.com. And he's going to look at it. And over 6 months, he'll check it every few days. And he'll tell us that, yes, he was able to open an account, place a bet, and deposit his funds and get his money back as well. So that's illegal gambling because they're not licensed in Poland. Poland's been doing that with several international operators who basically just come back and go, yesterday we were on illegalgambling1.com. And today we're on illegalgambling2.com. And tomorrow we're on illegalgambling3.com. And every single time you need a judge to come in and spend 6 months sitting on this thing. So it's a nonsense. But illegal gambling brands have just been playing this really slow motion, silly game of cat and mouse to just show the Polish government kind of like, no, we don't care. So they've just been doing this for years. So if you have those kind of processes, you need to change them, because how do we react to crime? How do we react to gaming? We need to be clear that there is a better way of doing these things. If it's like I always tell clients this, that basically, look, we are not just going to show you the one individual tree of illegal gambling. We're going to show you the whole forest. And it will be overwhelming for you to deal with this, but we'll show you tree by tree how you cut that down and stem it off. But the main point here is understanding there are thousands, millions of trees in the average marketplace. All of those issues need to be dealt with. Everything from the advertising, the website availability, the payment promotion, the links to SMS and peer-to-peer messaging platforms. All of these things need to be dealt with. So we break it down simply for clients in terms of there are 8 ecosystem essentials, everything from kind of website promotion right through to illegal streaming, which is one of the biggest growing areas in America right now, right through to affiliates and influencers. So find each of those individual trees, show them that there's an overwhelming forest there, but cut the path through it very simply. This is how we get you towards a path of control away from chaos.
So, taking a step back and thinking about the big picture, the gambling industry promised that if there was going to be legalization, you would see safety, you would see transparency, and you would see increased tax revenue. Your report proves that all 3 of these are basically wrong. Should states just consider banning online gambling in its entirety?
So, let's be clear here. Lobbyists for the legal gambling industry are the ones who said these things. So proponents for legal gambling have often said at the beginning of this spectrum, okay? So 7 years ago, and for each state that regulates, you have a group of lobbyists who turn up, who are paid professionals, who are basically telling you, bring in legal gambling, we'll get control of the industry, we'll get control of the marketplace. And no one's really clear on those terms. So is it industry? Well, there are 2 industries, one legal and licensed, one illegal and unlicensed. There's one marketplace in each state, in each country out there. The main thing here is this. I can understand why people are pushing to kind of say, we're lobbying, we want to get regulated gaming through the door kind of thing for as many products as possible. So people are saying kind of what they think they need to get the products over the line, to get state governments to vote on these things, to get the electorate to vote for this stuff as well. So there are a bunch of convincing, high-paid lobbyists who are doing that work, sometimes effectively, sometimes not so effectively. The absolute black mirror to that is what's going on now. That even where you have legislated, even where you have legalized online gaming, you can clearly see that there is the old marketplace and industry, the just criminal one that was always there, that basically is being grafted on top of with legal gambling now. So you've got one marketplace, 2 industries or sectors going on there. So banning online gaming altogether. If you took the view that we can't control it, we're going to ban everything, it's nuts to do that, in my view, get them in a form of insanity. You would basically be saying all of that hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, all of the billions of dollars in tax that could come through, all of the consumer safety, all of the child exclusion, all of the vulnerable community exclusion that should be taking place. We're going to just say we're going to ban it. We don't want any share of that money anymore. We'd rather just say it doesn't exist because we have a law against it. What the last 3 decades are telling you, you had a bunch of laws allowing or not allowing online gaming. You had a bunch of communities who still believe now in California and Texas that they have no online gaming, but it's there. It's there in such a significant nature in your marketplace, such a significant nature in your society, that a percentage of average state income is going to this product, okay? So you're looking at the seduction of American consumers in products that they demand and desire, okay, across sports betting.
Yeah, but according to your report, Americans in states with legal gambling lose more of their income gambling than people in illegal-only states. Doesn't this mean that legalization just manufactured a bunch of new gambling addicts?
Legalization has increased the size of the marketplace is really what's happened there, Boaz. So basically, you didn't replace illegal gambling with legal. You've just added on top. So it's been grafted on top, which means that in states that have legalized, you simply have more gambling. But the problem there is a lion's share of that gambling is still with illegals. So the problem we're having here is there's no perfect channelization that's ever going to take place, okay? You are always taking a marketplace that was in the shadows and bringing it into the light. The problem is you've now got shadows and light in the marketplace. You don't just have light, okay? So to get it back to where the reasonable level of control should be, that would be legal-only brands and the only accessible brands, the only available brands, the only transactable brands. The illegal ones are pushed to the margin. And even though you will constantly need to police this, monitor, police, enforce, and optimize it for the future, you will not have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% control going to illegal actors. And that's the big problem we have today. is that for all of the money left behind, all of the money that's profitability to gaming companies, too much is left with illegal, unregulated operators. Not enough is being left with legal, licensed operators, and then having the consequence of going on to be taxation revenue, going on to be in-state jobs and supply chain benefit. So you're not seeing that. You're seeing an overwhelming tide of money leaving American shores, going towards often organized crime and unregulated brands. So the big point here is you could respond to this by simply saying, we're going to ban everything, but it's still going to be carrying on the same way it has been for the last 3 decades.
Wouldn't you argue that then the market would get a lot smaller and the harm it causes would be a lot smaller then?
So questions about harm and size of the marketplace, they're not really my purview to talk on. Okay, so I basically say to any client coming to us, whether it's an operator, regulator, state governments, national governments, you can have whatever type of marketplace you want. So California, for example, if you are saying that there's no online gaming and you have no law for online gaming, surely it's incumbent upon you to police that problem. So we'll monitor for you so you can police and enforce effectively. So government like Saudi Arabia, if you don't want any online gaming, you need to police and enforce to make sure that that's the case then, okay? Because we know from our monitoring that we see tens of millions of connections from a country like Saudi Arabia to illegal online gaming every single day, okay? Why? If there's no online gaming. So having a law is meaningless unless it has some kind of enforcement ability, some application in the society. What you've been seeing across America is the assumption that we did not have online gaming, but the reality that online gaming was everywhere, behind everything, is one of the most promoted products on the internet after pornography. So this stuff is basically available everywhere. So you need to understand that American consumers demanded and desired this product from the start of the internet. They still demand and desire it today. You need the control and you need to have moved it away from chaos. But where we are in America today is fundamentally in a period of chaos with the online gaming business.
One of the things I've also found very interesting is that the person funding this research, Derek Webb, he is a gambling billionaire himself. What is his motivation in funding this research?
Exactly the same as our motivation, I believe, and I think that's where we met. That kind of the meeting of the minds between Derek and myself, what basically came from. We'd both made money in online gaming, but we both took a view that I'd seen something in the marketplaces where I believed there was more crime than we were giving it credit for. So I'd seen some things personally and professionally in my career where I looked at it and went, I had a period as a consultant, probably over a decade ago now. I had clients coming to me saying they weren't making any money in the online gaming business, and they were blaming it all on regulation and changing audience tastes and Generation Z doesn't like gambling. Bullshit to all of those things, okay? Oz was crime, just had more control, and that changed massively during the pandemic. Where Derek and I met minds on this was basically, we both made money in online gaming, but Derek had a view. I just want to see a business that's fair and safe for the future, okay? So we both see it, we're both older men now, we both see it as a legacy. What do we leave behind in this business that we've had our hands on the wheel in our time? So different areas. Derek was obviously product. I was marketing. We looked at it and said, you don't want to have seen and known something about these marketplaces and not have made any difference to it. You want to have changed it in your time. Both of us looked at it and thought we both had our hands on the wheels to some extent, different areas. We wanted to leave behind a legacy of fair, safe, contributing online gaming marketplaces. And we believe that mission's fundamentally been borne out. Our work in America has pointed to this is how you achieve a fair, safe, and contributing online gaming marketplace, which you need to be dealing with the reality of it. The best reality comes from look at all of the audience, all their activity all the time. Stop making up excuses for the business. Stop coming up with dream scenarios, which are based on magical thinking from things like paid surveys, where you ask a bunch of consumers, how much do you lose to illegal gambling? If I'm getting paid to answer your survey, I'm not going to tell you anything about illegal gambling. I just want to get paid for the survey.
Yeah, and imagine the following situation. You're given unlimited power, unlimited funds to crack down on illegal gambling. Where do you start?
I would answer this respectfully as it's not my job to regulate and control all forms of online gambling. All we are is the silent machine behind the marketplace. So GCI and YieldSec are the mechanics of the marketplace because of the monitoring and expert human beings that we have behind our technology to monitor what's going on out there. Regulation is an extremely hard job. Legislation is an extremely hard job, neither of which are my or our jobs. We are there to support legal stakeholders, regulators, operators, state governments, national governments, to control and bring back control of the marketplace to their benefit and society benefit as well. Because the main thing here is it's not just the gambling companies that have been stolen from. It's not just the state governments and the community that's been stolen from with all that tax. It's also the consumers that have been exploited here. So consumers have been misled and lied to and stolen from, because behind every corrupt, unlicensed, unregulated gaming brand, there is stolen customer money that will come down to it at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. Ismail Vali, founder of YieldSec and president of Gaming Compliance International. Ismail, where can people find you?
They can find me right now. They can find me online at ismailvali.com. They can find me at gamingcompliance.com, yieldSec.com. And I'll be speaking at the ICE conference in Barcelona in January as well about gambling, funnily enough.
Thank you very much.
I know you so well. Thank you.